All right, everyone, welcome in the Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. This is episode 34. Episode 30. That's episode 34 here on July the 12th, here, 2022. I'm Nicholas Hill, live as always from Chattanooga, Tennessee, the United States. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gustavo Tomazeli. Gus, how are you on this Tuesday evening?
I'm doing great, doing great. My last week as a 28-year-old on Saturday, I'll turn 29, but doing great. Ready to talk about sports. I know in America it's kind of like a slow season. It's summer. It's baseball time, but also becoming kind of soccer time. And in Brazil, it's very heated season. So we have a lot to talk about. And, let's start mixing up. We normally talk about soccer in Brazil time, but, I want to get into soccer in America time as well.
Yeah, and I know you brought up this article about Brazilian players in Major League Soccer and how they are becoming some of the highest paid players in the entire league, some of the hottest commodities, and how they're really trying to help raise the profile of Major League Soccer in the United States. So, one of these players, the highest paid player, is Luis
Araújo.
Roja, right?
Araújo.
Rojo, yes. Currently making a salary of nearly $4 million. He plays for Atlanta United,
And,
and
and, it, and it's interesting that he left Brazil kind of like a in doubt. Like he wasn't, like a very big player or like a player that was very famous. Like he played well in Sao Paulo. He was an average player. He even was in loan to a team in the countryside named Novo Horizontino. Then he really took off in France, but now Atlanta United, seemed to kind of took him to kind of get, and I know Atlanta United has this profile since their debut back in 2017 of exploring the South American market. I feel like they kind of were the first team in MLS to shift from big old European superstars to take a look into the South American market. And I feel like Atlanta United in 2 years got their first title, so you can't dispute they got their strategy right, and all their all the other teams look in the league and like, hey, maybe this is something we can, use it. Maybe we can something that we can take a look at it. And you see teams like New York City FC, they got the right players. They definitely got the right players. Thales Magno, he was a really, really promising player from Vasco da Gama. Everybody was sure he was gonna be this next big player in Europe, but he got several injuries. He didn't play as well as everybody thought, but New York City FC saw the talent that he had and got him not as expensive. I feel like, and then they got Gabriel Pereira from Corinthians and even Eber that was like in the Asian market. But I feel like those kind of players. Oh, we have a guest.
yeah. So I can tell we just had someone knock on the door here, so she is barking like nuts.
Oh, that's so cute.
All right, this is Emmy. Adoption. Just relax. Just relax. All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
So
I'm used to
I'll mute until she comes down.
I'm it's okay. I'm used to dogs barking at me. That's all I heard this past week when I was working for the Brazilian census. So I'm used to it. It's okay. But while you calm this, your beautiful dog, huh? I mean, I really, I remember vividly. I was watching back in 2017, New York City FC and Seattle Sounders. I feel like they were kind of the top of the league, and I was looking at the game and I was like, man, they could definitely improve if they got some Brazilian players. And I feel like the end. NYCFC more than Seattle heard what I was thinking because they got the right players. Not one game goes by if you go, especially to NYCFC Instagram or their highlights, and you don't see an assist from Thales Magno, a goal from Gabriel Pereira, a goal from Eber. You know, so you see them being decisive. Thales Magno, he took the shot in the penalty kicks in the MLS Cup final. Big responsibility for a 19, 20 years old, and he got it right. He got a big shot. So I feel like those Brazilian players definitely raise the stakes, and I feel like they could bring MLS to, and MLS needs to use what they could do best
Right.
because oh, what is that dog have an opinion?
She might have an opinion. Uh, yeah. See here. Um, yeah. I think she's finally calm. Anytime we have anyone knock on her door, she starts barking uncontrollably for like multiple minutes at a time.
And of course, it's right in the middle of our podcast.
Right as we're starting our podcast. But I think she is fine now. So I think now she can be an active participant in the show without being on.
It'll be a loud voice. But just let me give some shout out to Jeanette Tomazeli and Joel Tomazeli down in Nokomis, Florida. Luis Matos in Americana, Fala aí. He's saying that I need to share my fluent English with me. Oh, I would love to. Just contact me. Just contact me. That would love to. But Nick, I know I won't say you like you're big. I know you follow soccer, but you're not a big soccer follower. But what are your take on this shift in MLS and I bet in national soccer in the United States of, especially Major League Soccer, of not getting the old or kind of like downgrade European player and trying to find young players down in South America, especially in Brazil.
Yeah, I think honestly that is a smart way moving forward for Major League Soccer because, like, for the longest time, the MLS has just been known as the retirement league. It's basically the Florida of soccer. It's basically where everyone who is at the end of their career goes to make some money and enjoy being in America. But I think if you're going to be a serious competitive soccer league, if you want to eventually one day compete with the European soccer leagues, if you want MLS to be one of the top sports in the entire country, then yeah, I really do think that you got to go out there and find some talent. And as we talked about, there is a ton in Brazil. There's a ton in other South and Latin American countries that may be getting overlooked by Europe that may not be getting those chances over there that want to have that chance outside of their home country. And America provides an opportunity. We have 31 teams, which in the grand scheme of things, I think that's going to be a long-term issue for the MLS. I just think there's too many teams. I think that's going to dilute the talent. We would be better off if we had like 20 teams and had a relegation system and try to pull the talent to those top 20 teams. But in terms of acquiring talent, if we're not going to produce that talent in the U.S., at least right now because of our pay-to play structure and some of the other structural issues that we have, and plus, all these young kids here in America, like if they are super, super good, they don't want to stay in the MLS, or they're going to want to be Christian Pulisic and go over to Europe. I think this is the way we're going to have to go to really try to raise the talent level of MLS and to try to get more people interested in it. Because the better you're able to make the soccer, the more popular it will ultimately get, and then the better talent you're able to get from that. So I'm really glad that MLS teams are going to places like Brazil to really try to up that talent.
Yeah, and what makes me the happiest is not like they're getting old like Kaká. I know Kaká was a big attraction in Orlando. It were like a very flashy signing, but now they're investing in other players, like just recently, like we talk about uh, the players that Luis Araujo, that was acquired from Europe, but he's a Brazilian. But also you saw Gabriel Pereira, Thales Magno, Thiago Martins, Luquinhas, which already has 5 goals in 17 games, and he's been one of the best players of the top team in the Eastern Conference, the Red Bulls. And I feel like, and then they have to use what Europe has done for several decades, their currency leverage, because right now the dollar and the euro has basically the same value with the real. There, I think this week was the first time ever that one euro and $1 has the same real than our currency value. So, those MLS teams had to explore that and trying to find value of using that currency to find really good young players and getting to, make their roster more attractive. I feel like, and Atlanta United showed the way, because they got, when, Atlanta United started their team in 2017, everybody thought they were going to get an old, famous European player like NYCFC did, like Orlando did, like, Miami did. But no, they went the other way. They got a really high level coach, Tata Martino, who was the Barcelona coach. But then they got really unproven and really good South American talent, like Joseph Martinez from Venezuela, Miguel Almiron from Paraguay. Um, there were, I think, other uh, 2 players from Argentina, and it worked. And I know Atlanta United right now is not doing so well. They're not as good as everybody thought, but they showed the way of getting their team to be high level without getting players that probably is washed up.
Right, right. And to avoid that washed up talent, you have to go out and get that talent. And definitely these talent scouts are going after those Brazilian markets. But I guess my long term question is, we've been talking a lot about John Texter and how we're starting to see American investment in the Brazilian league. Are we going to start seeing perhaps a counterbalance to this, where we're starting to see more American investment in the Brazilian soccer league? Are we going to try to see a pushback against some of these Brazilian players heading to the U.S. to join the MLS?
I don't think so. And it's funny that like 4 years ago, a Brazilian player going to the MLS will seem like a failure. What seems as like, oh, this player had so much potential, but then he went to Major League Soccer. So it shows that he didn't develop as good as everybody thought. I don't buy that for a minute. Like, don't like Thales Magno, Gabriel Pereira, Eber. I think they love being, the best players on a New York team, living in New York, playing there, no pressure. Again, they don't have any pressure from the media. And like, those Brazilian players are used to having so much pressure from the media, from the fans, having so much intensity and so much high pressure. I feel like in America, I don't say they don't care about the sport, but like, soccer is not as passionate. It's not as debatable. It's not like people have so much heated arguments over MLS. MLS seems like a of course people want their team to win, but they don't see MLS as like do or die kind of like college football.
Yeah, I see this a lot with like Nashville, for example. I feel like the fan base up there, and I know they have their diehards, but it seems like whenever like all the Titans people I follow, the Predators people I follow, when it comes to Nashville SC, it almost seems like they treat it like minor league baseball. It's like, oh, this is we're gonna go out to we're gonna go out to the soccer stadium, we're gonna have some drinks, we're gonna have a good time, we're gonna go yell and scream some songs, but like it isn't like like Titans fans. I mean, we're still like reeling from the Bengals loss in January. Like I don't think if Nashville SC loses in the playoffs, the most of the fan base is going to really care in a
Yeah,
week.
yeah, I mean, you've been to Nashville SC playoffs. I know they won that game, but if they lost, wouldn't like the fans would be like moping for months.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, definitely, especially in the South, it's not. I mean, most Atlanta United fans, I mean, a lot of them are probably Georgia fans. I'm sure they were much more concerned about the Bulldogs, or like in Tennessee. I'm sure there's a lot of Vols fans who are now Nashville SC fans, but they're going to be way more concerned about what happens in Neyland Stadium. And if you have an SC game versus a Vols game, the Vols game is going to take precedence for the majority of those people just because they have that allegiance. And that's also part of the problem too. With the MLS is such a new entity that because you think about it, like the NFL just turned 100 years. MLB has been around since the late 1800s. NBA is a little younger, but still, like they've been around for a long time. And it's really hard to curate that type of loyal fan base when you haven't been around for that long and you're not reinventing the wheel. I mean, sometimes you think about like cell phones, right? Some people are avid Apple fans or avid uh, Android fans or whatever, but like those have like significantly changed our lives. MLS hasn't, I think, significantly changed like the American sports landscape necessarily. So it's just the MLS like either they're going to
But
just
but but, but MLS is doing, but the MLS definitely is doing some really good steps towards being respected. Being respected is like a really valuable league, not like a minor league. Because before it seems like I was like a minor league soccer, because before it was like, oh, old famous European players come here, they go to the MLS to finish their careers, to get maybe 1 or 2 years more out of their soccer skills, to use their fame with American, fans, and and people will go to the games, just have a good time. But now we see the teams wanted to be more respected. I know that definitely was even more increased with the Seattle Sounders finally breaking the barrier and winning the CONCACAF Champions League. That was, I think, huge. I feel like American sports media should value that more. I know, all right, I know that if if NYCFC had won that, oh, okay, if NYCFC had won that title instead of Seattle, the maybe the debate, maybe the 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 coverage would be more intense. Maybe it was more like a debate, but I feel like definitely MLS is more respected than 8 years ago when I started watching it when I moved to America. But it's a still long way to go. I don't know if you agree with me, Nick, in terms of MLS is still not there yet, but it's doing some really good steps towards being a respected league.
Yeah, really, I'm curious to see what the Apple TV Plus deal does in the coming years because they are the first sports league that are going in a completely digital direction, and if they are able to successfully pull it off, they're going to be in the forefront of what these other sports leagues are eventually going to do. Because I think first you're going to have MLS in 2023, the NASCAR their TV contracts are up in 2025. I think you could see them potentially go all digital. And then what does the NBA do in the future? What does the MLB? The whole sports world will be watching the MLS next year when they go to Apple TV, and they will be plastered all over that streaming service. A lot of Apple users like myself, we get it at a pretty discounted price. It's going to be pretty readily available for a lot of people, and they're going to be because think about it, the MLS is going from probably the fifth or sixth most visible sport on ESPN or FS1 so now they are going to be the sport on Apple TV Plus, and that is going to be a significant chance for them to really grow. Especially, if they can, I really think they need to be targeting young adults and and children. Like they really need to be grasping because if you can get fans when they're young, then those fans will grow up into adults that will patronize your games, and that will only grow your league. And I think Apple TV Plus will be the mechanism in which this league can grow.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just a little skeptical about Let me just give big shout out to Luis Gustavo Folego, huge soccer fan. He goes to all the games that you can think of. They're like we say kind of like the lost games, like a fourth division in the state of Sao Paulo, like he kind of like low profile games. He asking, uh, how can they spend more on baseball than on soccer? I mean, of course, in America, baseball is still like I feel like it's still number two. I feel like basketball it's maybe tied a little bit down than baseball because with because of minor league baseball because their influence in I say middle or countryside America. I think baseball is a little bit on top because of course basketball is more popular, but I feel like it's more popular in bigger cities, not only because of the NBA, but it's like the baseball culture is more rural and the basketball culture is more city.
I
I
would
don't know.
absolutely agree with that. And baseball, and just in general, it has a place in the American psyche. Because I know soccer, obviously, massive part of Brazilian culture. What soccer is historically to Brazil is kind of what baseball is to America. Like if you think about Field of Dreams, how you think about the James Earl Jones speech in that movie where he's like baseball, how it keeps on moving forward no matter how much America changes and stuff, how baseball is the true constant, how, the legends of like Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and the Yankees and like think about the White Sox or the Black Sox in 1919, and how they cheated and how that, has always been a part of sports legacy and just how through the decades, even though America has changed rapidly since its beginning, baseball is still relatively the same game. Uh, It just and that's why ultimately it has so much staying power. Um, at least in the U.S., that's why there is more money, at least for MLB here in the U.S. versus soccer. And I think partially too, we don't have the top soccer talent in the U.S. All the top soccer talents in Europe.
No, and I feel like sports culture. I feel like it matters a lot. Like I kind of compare soccer in America like football in Brazil. I thought domestic football, football, the NFL kind of football. I thought they would be more developed by now. It's still very called like a minor league feeling about it. I thought they would be better developed, but it's baby steps. Maybe in
2026 is massive. I think it's make or break for American soccer. Like with 2026, the World Cup has to go really, really well. The U.S. needs to make a deep run, and from there, maybe the MLS can develop into a true sports league. 'Cause I feel like 1994, we were able to get soccer from completely obscure to a sport that had a substantial fan base. But now for 2026, you got to take that substantial fan base that's only grown and make it into a mainstay. You got to make it into a part of the American culture. And 2026 is when that can happen.
I would love to do one day like a reaction to watching. I feel like the biggest matchup ever between Brazil and America, the round of 32 of 4th of July between Brazil and United States in the 1994 World Cup. That
I've never watched that game because I know.
Yeah, me too. I was a little kid, but what I know from that game was America played really well. It defended really well. Brazil was only able to score because of the big talent of Romario, which in that World Cup was an amazing player. And but what everybody remember is the elbow of Leonardo, boom, of the American defender.
Mm,
Everybody remembers that play.
yeah, I would love to see a Brazil versus U.S. matchup again. I think didn't we go like over the World Cup bracket and like it's possible that it could happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, which would be just insane. If that happens, no matter what time of day it is, we'll have to figure out a way to do a live reaction to the game if it happens.
Yeah, because I was very sad in 2018 when America did not make it. Let me just show you a highlight from that game in 1994 that every Brazilian remembers. Hold on, let me go a little further. Now you can see. Look how Leonardo has no shame. Look, Hold on. Boom.
Hmm. I'm assuming he didn't get ejected from it. Did he
Yeah,
get it?
he got ejected. He got ejected.
I must say I don't like our uniforms from that time period. I feel like they look very.
I love uniforms from that time. It was simple. It was original. I love the Brazilian uniform. They all yellow. You know that big green number. It's so beautiful.
I'm talking about the American uniforms. I mean, the Brazilian uniforms are fine. The Brazilian uniforms are like iconic, but I feel like in America we haven't pinned down a true like American uniform. Like we're still trying
Yeah,
to figure out the
because
best way
Brazil
to incorporate all of our colors.
because Brazil uniform is so classic. You know, it's all yellowy. Call ourselves little canaries because canaries are the yellow bird, and the Brazil's like the national team little canaries. Se eles são canarinho because of the color. It's so classic.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that is truly one of the right uniforms. Like I think about that. Think about like obviously the UK, England. England's uniforms are classic. I like France's uniforms quite a bit. There's some of the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. I want to show you. Speaking of the 19, Luis Gustavo Folego said in 1994 he was his favorite World Cup, and he did a collection of T-shirts from the 1994 World Cup. Do you have the? Você tem a dos Estados Unidos? I asked him about the American one. He says the American jersey.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a very successful one outside of the one guy from Ecuador that got shot afterwards. Was that from
It was
Ecuador?
Colombia.
Yeah,
Colombia.
Colombia. Yeah.
But well, that incident was more like because of the all pressure no other nation other national team had so much pressure like Colombia in 1994 because they did a beautiful a great qualifying. They won 5-0 versus Argentina in Argentina. They had one of their best squads with Freddy Rincon, Asprilia, Valderrama. You know, their talent was huge. So they got with the World Cup with so much expectations. And then when they got eliminated in the first round, losing to the US with, if you'd ask all the pundits back then, everybody thought Colombia would destroy United States because of all the talent Colombia had and all the inexperienced players United States had. If it was today, this would be one of the biggest upsets in soccer probably in that World Cup. That was the biggest upset. And probably, with all the political turmoil Colombia had, probably, Escobar, that has ironically the same last name as the famous drug dealer, kind of was the biggest villain in that country because of all the hopes and dreams was slipped away when he scored that own goal. Because with all the hope that the country had after so many political turmoil.
Yeah, I mean that's just insane. So because I remember seeing that 30 for 30 years ago, but
Oh, I
on
thought it was beautiful.
yeah, just very unfortunate fans or whatever. Yeah, I was just looking at the 1994 bracket, um, but like
From
those have like significantly. I remember seeing that 30.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just hearing my voice again, but yeah, just looking at the bracket though, I think the team that surprised me the most is like Bulgaria making it to the semifinal.
Oh, they had Stoichkov, which was a huge Barcelona player back then. He was one of the biggest talents Barcelona had in that midfield. So I know it was a little surprised, but they had big talent.
Yeah, because I know that I guess ever since you left, I feel like it's almost like Croatia right now.
Yes, they had Luka. They had Modric.
Yeah, so it's just like I feel like at any given time, one or two of those Eastern European nations at any given time are like really good.
But let me just show you I think it's beautiful. Look at that. That's from our viewer Luis Gustavo Folego collection. From people listening, we're showing the 1994 U.S. I think would make better. We have some like blue or like the stripes or
Yeah,
like
they needed some blue in that, and plus, I mean the way I guess the way pattern is very 90s, so I do appreciate that. Hey, they just need some blue in there.
Yeah, I think the like for example the Brazil one from that year. I think it's a little over the top, but I love their have the stars. Look, the stars makes it better. I know there's a lot of similar confederation, but the number in green, I feel like I love those classic jerseys.
Mm. Yeah, 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 definitely that other one was really really good. Um,
But nevertheless, I'm excited for this 2020. I'm more excited about the 2026 World Cup than the 2022 World Cup. I think because this World Cup it's so for the I call it's the TV World Cup because from I don't know if you saw the news like you won't be able to drink in the World Cup. I don't you don't even gonna be able to have like a one night stand in the World Cup. It
yeah,
will be so expensive to go. So you take all the fun out. So because when I had the experience to see the World Cup here in Brazil 2014, I know I was privileged to go to two games live, but the best fun of all I had was interact with fans from all over the world, to have the party, to have the we call the FIFA Fun Fest. There were people coming from Asia, from the Middle East, of countries who didn't even came close to being in the World Cup. But I asked them why you're here. They were like, "Cause I want to experience the World Cup. I want to experience the magic, the excitement."
right. You know, and that's a whole other topic. I'm not going to get into it. Let's just say I don't think you should be hosting international events in a place that is openly hostile to the ways of the modern world. But that's just that's a topic for
Yeah.
another day. But yeah,
Let's keep it light. Let's keep it light. You talk about because, and I know, I feel like. Do you think 2026's World Cup success is more important than the 1994 war?
yeah, yeah. I think '94 was just kind of bringing soccer onto the scene. 26 is America going to be a serious soccer contender moving forward or not? Because I think because here's the thing too. I think this World Cup will also bring up some other issues. They'll hopefully bring pay to play up to light. Maybe we can find ways to make soccer more accessible. Because like soccer in theory should be the cheapest sport to play. Like all you need is a field, a ball, and a net. That's all you need. And for there's no reason for it to be as exclusive as it is now. Like there is no reason.
I think I get a little bit why it's like that. It's because of the culture of who perform. Like, for example, why football seems more accessible than soccer to play, even though football you need to have pads and like uniform, and you need to have kind of more like a structure to play. But I feel like it's all about the culture. Like when sports is very popularized, like football in America, you find a ways to make it cheaper for players to have access to, especially in school. In America, soccer seems as like the last option. Or like if, for example, you're a very good athlete in high school, soccer is probably your fourth option. Like you have football, basketball, baseball, and then soccer.
Mhm.
So when you put soccer last, you tend to make the sports more for people who can, get to play by having more financial access. I don't
Correct,
know.
correct. And I guess you have to find a way to get more coaches too, because if you don't have coaches in your community, then who's going to teach it? So you're definitely right on that. It's just it's a frustrating situation because we should be able to compete like on an international level because we have the population, we have the infrastructure to do it. We just gotta be able to enact it.
Yeah,
But we'll see.
and for me, and just my final point, and to me, still the craziest thing is that America is known as the nation of immigrants. America has so much influence from a lot of communities from all over the world. Like, of course, the Mexican community is the largest. We have the Brazilian community, the even Portuguese community, the Hispanic community from like other Central America countries, even European uh, uh, immigrants are coming. But you don't seem to have that in the American in the national team, like you have in France or even in England, for example. Like especially France.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I mean, like soccer should be one first drinks because of that. So hopefully with 26, it will only because I can only imagine the advertising is going to be out of the wazoo. You're gonna have a lot of people who are going to be able to experience these games in person. I know I'm going to try to go to a couple at least. I would love to go to a U.S. game, but I don't even care. I'll go to any random match, wherever I'm at in the country by then. So it is
Yeah,
going to be very, very
and I'll
exciting.
tell you, try as hard as you can because it's a once in a lifetime. I don't regret it like ever to the money I spent to go to Netherlands, Chile, Belgium, and South Korea. Those are games I still have the ticket stub in my wallet. I still carry because it was such a historical event that I was privileged enough to witness. Of course I was sad that I didn't got tickets to the opening game that was Brazil versus Croatia in Sao Paulo. That would have been like in my home in my city watching my team, but I was lucky enough, but I still was able to go to games and see, that was for me I once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see where everyone gets scheduled for. Because I imagine that probably SoFi Stadium or the MetLife Stadium will be the final location because they'll want the
I,
final in
I
LA
think I
public.
think they will do New York. I think they will push for New York. I think in New York it seems more like a international city, a city they want to, because California hosted the 1994 World Cup in the Rose Bowl. So I think New York will want to take the shot this time.
Yeah, and plus, at that time of year, New York is going to be warm. It's going to be a lot nicer. I can see like Atlanta hosting one of the, like hosting like a knockout round or two. I think Dallas will have a knockout round or two in Cowboy Stadium. I'll be curious to see what they have from there. All right, let's move on to MLB. The All Star game is next week, and the MLB All Stars were selected. I know off top that the Atlanta Braves had five selected. Ronald Acuna is the only starter for the National League, but um, you have Dansby Swanson, you have Max Fried, um, you have William Contreras, and Dansby Swanson.
So, so I
But
have the lineup here. So for the starters of the the starters from the National League would be Wilson Contreras, catcher for the Chicago Cubs,
mhm.
Paul Goldschmidt, first baseman from St. Louis Cardinals, Chris Holman Jr. from Miami, Manny Machado from San Diego Padres, Trey Turner from Dodgers, Ronald Acuna Jr. Off-fielder from Atlanta Braves, Jock Peterson from San Francisco Giants, Mookie Betts from the Dodgers, and Bryce Harper. He'll be the designated hitter. He plays for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now this year we have the legacy selection. I like that idea. I like the idea of honoring veteran players that made the impact of the league and putting them on the All Star game. I think that's what All Star game should be good for, honoring those players. I think it's weird that commissioner got to choose. I think it should have been like kind of like a fan kind of choose or something, make the fans kind of involved with that. But I like the idea. I don't know if you liked it.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's good to see some of these guys who are probably going to retire after this year get one last go at the All Star game. It is one of the biggest honors you can get in Major League Baseball. So it is a very it's just a very nice thing, and I'll be curious to see if it helps ratings at all. But my thing with the All Star, just all All Star games in general, I feel like every single one of them have diminished in significance over the years. Like they don't like the Pro Bowl, for example. Pro Bowl like just is completely irrelevant at this point. NBA All Star Game to me is completely irrelevant. MLB All Star Game probably is still the most relevant, but I mean, ever since they took away the winner gets to host the World Series, Like I
I,
don't.
I have mixed feelings about that because one side you can say like, oh, it's not fair to have like a entertainment game deciding such a big factor in the finals like home field advantage because it's kind of like you don't reward the best team, you reward the team that got to have the best day in one game out in July, which is, you're not playing for your team, you're playing for the entertainment. But at the same time, I like where you can find a purpose to the All-Star game. I love when you can find something meaningful to them. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it.
No, I absolutely agree. I don't. It was always a dumb idea, but it did give it a reason. I remember that's
Yeah,
the reason to tune in was all right. Who is going to host? Who's going to have home field advantage in the World Series? Like that is something that can make or break an entire series. So I feel like those players always took the game more seriously because they knew on the off chance their team made it, that would help them. So, but I don't know how else you would make it more relevant. I mean, I see why you keep the All Star games, but they don't interest me as much as they used to. Like I used to love All Star games, and this even makes sense in NASCAR, like the All Star race.
I still like it though. The home run, the definitely the home run derby is still the best talent like performance. Like the skill competition in all major league sports. I think the home run derby is still the best.
Yeah, and Raul Acuna, I think, is going to win. I know he's going to be in it. Raul Acuna has been on fire, so I will be rooting hard for him in that home run derby. Because it
Yeah,
feels
they
like the Braves haven't really had a ton of people in the home run derby, but
Yeah, the ones who are gonna join are Pete Alonso from the New York Mets, and he won the past two Derby titles, so he probably is a favorite. Ronald Acuna Jr. is making his second trip to the Derby. He eliminated Pete Alonso back in 2019, so maybe we get a rematch from that. We also gonna have Albert Pujols, of course. He was he went after like 7 years. He returned. I know it was like a more like an honor kind of thing, but he was his fifth appearance, and he had 684 home runs into his career. So it's a fair kind of like honor, homage. But you also have Juan Soto of the Nationals, Kyle Schwarber for the Phillies, and one player I would have put it because he would have made such it made it such fun last year is Shohei Otani.
oh
You have to put Shohei Otani because he is the kind of player to have that moment.
yeah, I mean he's just a box office. It's interesting to me how this is all except for one player NL East players. Like it's all the NL East.
Uh,
So,
I mean the cover of the home run derby promo is basically Deanna Least plus Albert Pujols.
yeah. So it's because right now actually I have the Mets and Braves on here in the background. The Mets lead 1-0 in the fifth inning because this series this week is massive. So the Mets won last night, so they're going to hold on to the division lead for now. They're up 2.5. If they win tonight, they'll go up 3.5. But it's the Braves have come back from over 10 games down to be right there with the Mets. So it's obviously just a massive series for at least this point in the season.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Mets started really well, but they weren't able to keep up. I feel like the injuries kind of slowed them down. But the Mets and injuries,
Yeah.
always an issue.
And the Braves remembered how they won the World Series last year. So,
Yeah.
because I felt like the Braves for about 2 months were just in a hangover, like we're the World Series champions, whatever. But then in May, it's like, okay, we got to actually like get it together now if we're gonna get back to the playoffs. So,
Uh,
um,
I'm so jealous right now because I always dreamed of having a Braves Mets game in July for my birthday. When I was in US, that never happened. Of course, when I'm not in US, they have the Mets and the Braves playing in Truist Park in July. Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
I went to so many Mets Braves games in Atlanta. That was to me the best matchup.
Yeah, and honestly, like I wouldn't be shocked if this ended up being a playoff series in October. Like I think there's a good shot you're going to see this in the postseason. At the very minimum, it's going to be an exciting race in the second half of the year for the top of the division.
Oh, definitely.
I don't
And
feel
he,
like the Phillies are going to get back into it. I think it's going to be the Mets or Braves, and I think whoever doesn't win the division will be one of the wild card teams.
but also, do you think this year is a make it or break it for the Yankees? The way they have been playing, they're 20, they're 14 and a half games above the Red Sox. They're the best team by far in the American League. Do you think this is the make it or break it year for the Yankees?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, they're going to be expected to win. I mean, they're 61-25. I mean that's one of the best records at this point in the season that we've seen. And I think the matchup that everyone's waiting on is Astros Yankees in the ALCS because I feel like that's what the series is going to boil down to. And the Yankees have some demons they have to exercise against the Houston Astros. For all those series that Yankees fans have been crying about that the Astros stole because they cheated and this and that. But at some point, you got to beat them. The Nationals, they were able to beat the Astros. The Braves, we were able to beat the Astros. The Astros are not invincible just because they cheated. Yankees, at some point, you have to beat the Astros. And this year, they're going to have to prove they can beat the Houston Astros.
Oh, of course, because and the Astros not as good as they were back in 2017, 2018. They lost very key players like uh, uh, George. George. They lost,
Springer.
yeah, Springer, George Springer. They lost many. I know Justin Verlander is still a really good pitcher, and they still have Jose Altuve. But the Yankees have a roster because last year they got really good moves in the middle of the season, but they were able to get that going. I feel like they finally clicked that roster, but not. I think it's like World Series or bust for this team. It's World
Oh,
Series.
yeah.
If they don't win the World Series, Aaron Boone is gonna get fired.
Yeah. I'm trying to think on the NL side, obviously the Dodgers have the best record right now. You got the Mets and Braves kind of on their tail for second and third, at least in best records. And the Dodgers will definitely. I feel like the MLB desperately wants a Dodgers Yankees World Series. That would be like a dream matchup for them.
Oh yeah, though the Fox would be, and it's gonna be so weird not having Joe Buck calling the World Series games.
I know. I look. I'm gonna miss him. I always thought he was better at baseball than football.
Me too. I always thought he's on like a baseball play-by-play than a football.
Yeah, but I mean, you gotta give credit to ESPN though for getting him and Troy Aikman. They'll significantly update or upgrade that Monday night booth significantly, and hopefully they return Monday Night Football to what it should be. It's one of the marquee matches because it feels like for a long time Monday Night Football has been the redheaded stepchild of NFL games. Like rarely a big game. They for some reason will put trash games on there. But the Monday Night Football, historically, that was the game of the week, and it should be the game that you
Yeah,
look.
it's because it's the loner game. It's the loner game. It's the
Yeah.
game that has the sole attention of the country because you have a Thursday night football should be the stepchild because it's still the beginning of the week, the beginning of the NFL week. It's like I feel like if I still don't think Thursday night football is viable. I know it's for broadcasting, it's good. Amazon definitely wants it, but even the major cable TV channels kind of bail on it.
Yeah, I mean,
NBC.
Amazon's gonna. I think Amazon will make it work though. I mean, they got Al Michaels. They'll find a way to make it work. I think they gotta get better matchups. Like, yeah, you can't put like I know every team is supposed to be on prime time once, but you can't be wasting spots on like the Jaguars on a Thursday night football. Like I think they need to adopt what college does. They need to have flexible scheduling, like 3-4 weeks in advance. Like you can say, okay, like for last year, the Bengals. Okay, the Bengals are surprisingly good. Let's get them on prime time more. You know, like they need to be able to react. There's always a couple of surprise teams that are really good, maybe a couple of teams that we thought would be really good, but it turned out they suck. Like the Seahawks. The Seahawks last year we thought would be really good, but they turned out to be really, really bad because of injuries and stuff. So get them off of prime time if they're
And
not
and
really.
and talking about Monday Night Football, they got lucky this year. Can ask for more. First game of Russell Wilson as a Broncos player is versus the Seahawks. What better matchup you can get week one where everybody is starting their season.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterback versus their old team, I know you were wanting to talk about this, their pregame, like a pre-show discussion. Baker Mayfield, we talked about this last week where he has been traded to the Carolina Panthers, and there's a soundbite I know that you wanted to pull up about
Yeah,
him, about going to Carolina, leaving Cleveland, and how it related to his time in college. Because remember, Baker Mayfield started at Texas Tech, had to go to a junior college for a year, and then ended up going to Oklahoma where he took off.
Welcome, Baker.
I'd say it was, pretty much the only way to describe it. But you roll with the punches and you got to move forward. This is a test of adversity and how I'm going to handle it and how I can move forward and be the best teammate possible with our new home. And I'm looking forward to it. But I'm never a me guy. I'm a team first win guy, and we had a good time there. And I'm looking forward to being able to contribute with Carolina now.
I mean, he was very. I say even he said like he was very. I feel like he is maturing. He's definitely this press conference showed that he. It was ironic because he said, "Oh, I'm a team guy first." I don't know. I don't buy that.
I don't
Or
know.
maybe
I feel like yes, he's always been cocky. He's always been braggadocious, but I think he's always had the respect of his team. Like he was able to rally around Oklahoma when he was there, and that offense has not looked anywhere close as good since he's left. I mean, I know Kyler Murray won the Heisman, and they've had some good offenses since, but that Oklahoma offense was firing when Baker Mayfield was at Oklahoma.
I mean, he came this close to playing a national title. He lost in overtime in one of the best games, probably in the semifinals era versus Georgia.
And they put up over 40 points on an elite Georgia defense. Like that Georgia, oh man, we saw that Georgia defense shut out Tennessee in Neyland Stadium. Because I was there. I don't remember if you were there or not.
No, I was in your city that day.
Yeah, 41 to nothing. I mean, that defense was incredible, but what Baker Mayfield did to that defense was insane. And then in Browns, he goes in there, throws the rookie record for touchdowns, 27, and was really able to rally that team to its first playoff win ever for that new Browns franchise. Ever since the new franchise was born in 1999. And really, to me, I think what happened in Cleveland was more the organization bailed on him because they're the Cleveland Browns. They can't get out of their own way. They're owned by the Haslams, and they're going to do stupid things. And, you're going to bail on a guy because he has one bad season, and then you're going to go out and get a guy with if he's healthy and is up to his standards, he is a top 5 quarterback in Deshaun Watson. But all those off the field issues, he's going to have to work to get the respect of all these guys because, I mean, respectfully, if you don't know him, why would you trust him at least to start off with? Because it sounds like his character is very much in flux. I mean, for all the cockiness, at least Baker Mayfield, I know he had some legal issues back in college, but that's
don't even come close to what Deshaun Watson is dealing with. I mean, I know he had a issue with the police in a crazy night, let's say, but he, as far as I know, has a stable relationship with a very beautiful woman who even does commercials for an insurance company. So it shows that he is a respectful guy. So he wouldn't be on national television doing commercials for an insurance who needs to sell trustworthy.
Oh, absolutely. And as I said last week, I think the Panthers got a steal here. Like, I think it's going to work out kind of like how when the Titans got Ryan Tannehill for a 6th round pick. I think it'll be that kind of success where Ryan Tannehill, he isn't a lead. He isn't a top 10 quarterback, but he stabilized the Titans and has helped the Titans be really successful. Even though at this point, I do think we need to be looking for a guy that could perhaps elevate us to the next level. But for the Panthers, Baker Mayfield is going to be that guy who can, I think, stabilize them at least for the near term. And if everything goes right, if Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy, I think that Panthers offense could be pretty good. The offensive line was standing because the line is very, very questionable.
And it brought up a good point, stability, because last year's quarterback position, the Panther, was everything but stable. Even brought it back Cam Newton, who, as much glory as he brought up to Carolina, is not a good football player right now. He is not the player that he used to be 8 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that I feel like was just a nostalgia, desperation thing that they tried, and it didn't work. It was cool to see him in a Panthers uniform again, but he clearly doesn't have it anymore.
And the question is that I think we didn't talk about last week. Do you think the Browns should try to get like a good backup quarterback? I say the Teddy Bridgewater, a Tyrod Taylor caliber, kind of like the backup quarterback that can stabilize, like what Teddy Bridgewater did for the Saints when Drew Brees was out, because Deshaun Watson's gonna get suspended. That's it's a sure bet in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you have to. If you don't, then you're throwing away his entire season, especially with all the talent you're bringing in. You brought in Amari Cooper. You still have Nick Chubb. You have Kareem Hunt. You can't waste that talent just because you're waiting on Deshaun Watson to be eligible to play. Like you have to get someone who's going to be able. It's like Tyrod Taylor or Teddy Bridgewater, I think, could play well enough to give you at least a winning record with the talent that's around them. So they'd be foolish not to.
Or I would even suggest, try. Do you think they would try Sam Darnold as a backup, or
well, they have Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah,
so I would rather play Brissett. I think Darnold is traumatized from the Adam Gase experiment. For some reason, Ryan Tannehill was able to recover from it, but I think the whole Sam Darnold, he's seeing ghost thing. I think he's seeing ghost. I don't think you're going to see him figure it out.
And speaking of Jets craziness, I want to, I know it's football related, but it's off the field. Zach Wilson's Jets quarterback has a interesting story, we can say, about his romantic affairs.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So basically, if you haven't heard, Zach Wilson is accused of sleeping with one of his mom's friends. It's accused. I know. I first learned on this on TikTok the other day. I saw someone was like DMing Zach Wilson about it, asking what's up with it. Yeah, it's interesting.
I like all the memes about it. The best one is like, that was the first time the Jets were able to score with his quarterback plus 40.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and honestly though, if I'm a Jets fan though, low key, this would make me at least a little bit nervous because I'm just like, okay, so you were not smart enough to keep this situation under wraps. Like, if you're gonna do something like this, okay, that's one thing. But you gotta find a way to keep it on the down low. You can't let something like this get out to the public because it becomes a team distraction is what ends up happening. And yeah, especially for because this second year for Zach Wilson is going to be huge because he had some flashes here or there in his rookie year, but in a year where you're really going to have to bog down, you're really going to have to focus if you want to take the next step. you have all this stuff off the field now about who are you having relations with, and it's just not a situation that you really want. And I think Robert's the law and the Jets organization, they're really going to have to help guide him through this situation. I feel like if they want to get out of this without him being totally distracted, that it ends up affecting his play on the field.
Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to keep it under wraps when you play in a New York team because the New York media is way more relentless about trying to find the next gossip or the next, uh, story than, let's say, Jacksonville or Houston or Miami kind of thing. But of
Right.
course,
I mean, and think about it too. You got to remember he went to school in Utah in Provo. Like it's going from Provo to New York is just insane. The pressure jump, especially for the Jets, which is just notoriously like, can the Jets quarterback ever be good? That's just
I mean, the Jets has been 1 decade with not going to the playoffs. A decade. I mean, the
yeah,
last time they were to the playoffs was 2010, 2011 when they made the AFC Championship. After that, I think the only time they came close to it was 2015, 2016 when they were in their last week in the regular season, kind of like alive, but they lost to the Bills, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers got the wild card spot. So it just keeps feel more to this drama.
I mean,
That's
it's really scary when you think about how their best quarterback since Joe Namath is Mark Sanchez.
Yeah. I mean, he went back to back at AFC championships. He eliminated Tom Brady and Peyton Manning on their prime. It's all true.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously, I know Chad Penton had better stats, but he, Mark Sanchez. I mean, he played well in the postseason, so yeah, so that's definitely interesting. I don't have any more to say on that.
So let's go more into Vols because they have been, interesting on the recruiting side.
Right. So on Sunday, they got two big commits. So they had a 5-star commit, their second one of 2023 class, Chandavian Bradley from Platte City, Missouri. He's a 6'5", 220 edge rusher. 5-star, ranked as the 5th best at his position, 36th best player in the country. So the Vols now have 2 out of the top 40 players in the country. Of course, you have Nicholas Amiavelia from California. They also have 2 out of the 10 top edge rushers because there's also Caleb Herring from Murfreesboro. Additionally, they got a second commit on Sunday, Jalen Smith from Grayson High School in the Atlanta area. He's a linebacker, and he's a 3 to 4-star depending on what you look. But right now, according to 24/7, the Vols have the 5th best class in 2023. Currently only have 18 commits, so they have room to get some more players. This is shaping up to be a bare minimum top 10 class. If you can land some more 4 or 5 stars, maybe you can keep it up there towards the top 5. But definitely a great turnaround. Maybe we think about where the Vols were last offseason and where the Vols are at now. It's amazing what Josh Heupel has done to stabilize this program in a short amount of time. And I think for Vols fans, we have to be patient. We have to let this talent come in. We got to let them develop. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves. I know certain people are thinking, the Vols are going to win 10 plus games this year. You have to tamper it down. But the talent is coming. I trust Josh Heupel to build this program, and I think in a couple of years, the Vols could be competing for titles. But we have to let the process, undergo itself. We got to get this talent in here and let them develop.
I kind of compared this season as the 2015 Butch Jones era kind of season. That he got a lot of talent, and there was probably a little bit of expectations, but it still needs to tempt him. But he needs to have. Oh, I know why you're happy about it, Mr. Nicholas Hill.
Yeah, the Matt Olson just hit it out of the park, 2-1 Braves.
But in terms of patience. I know Vol fans are anything but patient because, especially with the success of the baseball team and, the basketball team winning SEC titles, and, they want to see that as success in football.
Yeah, and then and success like that in football would easily eclipse what we would see in those other sports. So definitely great news there. Today is 50 days away, by the way, from the opening game against Ball State on September 1st. Cannot wait for it. We'll have a ton of college football preview content in the weeks to come as we get ready for the 2022 football season. Anyway, so last story real quick on the American side of NASCAR story. Tyler Reddick, a young driver, I think he's only 24 years old, currently drives for Richard Childress Racing in the 8 car, just won his first race last week at Road America. He announced today that he is going to join Michael Jordan's and Denny Hamlin's team, the 2311 team, starting in 2024. That's a Toyota team. And this is really interesting for 2 reasons. One, Tyler Reddick, I think, is one of the young, promising drivers in the league or in NASCAR. He reminds me a lot of Kyle Larson before he went to Hendrick Motorsports. Hopefully, he avoids a controversy like Kyle Larson. But Kyle Larson, he drove for a mid-tier team before 2020. He won a couple of races in mid-tier equipment before he got an elite ride with Hendrick. And, now he's won a championship with Hendrick, won 10 races last year. He's only won 1 race this year. But I think Tyler Reddick has that potential in him moving forward. And I think with 2311, that team is still trying to get its act together, but I think they're only going to get better. They have all the funding you could possibly want because you have Michael Jordan behind you. So I really love this move for Tyler Reddick. It's interesting that it's not going to happen until 2024. So he's going to be on a lame duck team now for a year and a half. We'll be very curious to see if Richard Childress kind of sandbags his car for the next year and a half. But I would hope Childress will invest everything he can to win as many races with Reddick while you have him for the next year and a half, because he's the much better driver that operates right now. Because Austin Dillon, and he's had his races over the years. I just don't think he's that good in the free car. So I'm very, very curious to see who they get to replace him in the 8 car in 2024, or even if we start to see Richard Childress, because he's up there. He's in his old 70s. He's been in the sport now for over 40 years. Of course, he came into the sport with Dale Earnhardt in the free car, and that's where he had all the success back in the 80s and 90s. And I think because rumor is Dale Earnhardt Jr. is looking to perhaps jump into cup racing, and kind of live out what his father tried. Because remember, his father has started a team, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, and he was really building that up when he died in 2001 in the Daytona 500. And I think Junior really, really wants to kind of live out that legacy to try to finish what his father was trying to start before he tragically, died in a race. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see what happens with all that moving forward. And I think this move is going to precipitate all of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's just new talent coming to motor racing in America is important because you need to have renovation, kind of new blood.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's good to have a lot of young potential superstars. So we need to have young, identifiable superstars, people that can be marketable, that can connect. And Tyler Reddick, he's going to be working with Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan's going to get him all the brand sponsorship he ever could dream of. So I think that will be huge for not just Reddick, but for the sport of NASCAR.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I feel like NASCAR, it's coming back. It's still in a process of getting the popularity that maybe 20 years ago had.
Oh, absolutely. I feel confident about the future of the sport. But anyway, let's go down to Brazil. Let's see what's going on with Brazil Championship. And
it's on week 16. What?
I'd say, and I know Rio Branco. I know things did not go very well for Gremio. I saw those highlights, and Gremio seemed like they could do whatever they wanted in that game.
Oh, you defined perfectly. Your definition was great. That's definitely what I felt when I was broadcasting. It was frustrating. My commentator calling the heads of the coach. I still want to give him one chance because he was hired like 4 games ago. I know he has 2 wins and 2 losses. I know those 2 losses definitely came on the worst time ever in the second round, but I still feel like Rio Branco needs to finish the coach what they have because change coaches again with 4 games to go into the second round is just I don't know if the new coach can bring anything different. Definitely I interviewed the goalkeeper Naya, and one of the things that he said that the team got new 4 signed. They signed 4 new players, and they probably didn't practice enough with the squad that was already there. But the coach decided to put them on the starting 11. And maybe what's happening, from what I heard from Naya, the goalkeeper, is that the players that they got hired were good enough for the team, or maybe didn't click enough, or didn't got the same rhythm, or they didn't have the chance to kind of like get used to playing together. And maybe the team is kind of, the team that started the tournament, that the team is now, is very different,
Mhm.
but it's not improved. It's just stayed the same, but with different players. And maybe with roster connection, maybe that's something that is really kind of happening to Rio Branco. The roster is not connecting.
Yeah, so it sounds like, so basically this new coach basically handpicked some players to come in, and now he's starting those players. I feel like would that potentially cause a mutiny within the current players? Because like you
Yeah.
have this core, you got as far as you have with the core that you have, but now this new guy is going to come in and say, "All right, I don't care how much success you've done so far. We're going to come and bring in these guys who are not as good, are not that much better." And I mean, if you're the players who are currently there, like the other 7, like why are we playing with these 4 guys?
Yes, that Nick, you, even though you're probably not following Broncos so closely, and I understand like it's not big. You're on fire. Like you really nail it. It's like I feel that the players that started the season with Rio Bronco don't feel appreciated as they were before. Because when the Rio Broncos started the season, for the first 6 to 7 games, Rio Bronco kept the starting 11 really neat. Like they kept the same players playing together, but they had 2 losses. They fired the coach. They got a new coach. They had 4 new players, and then everything changed.
I mean,
So
it seems hasty to like fire a guy after 2 losses, though. I
yeah,
mean, because I feel like, and obviously, no disrespect, but Rio Bronco, you guys are having to fight teams that have bigger budgets, or you guys are having to fight teams from bigger areas, right? And it seems
yeah.
like that if you're going to want to have a chance to ever beat those teams, you need stability. You need someone to stay with that team. And yeah, you're going to lose a couple of games, but you can't fire a guy after a couple of losses.
Rio Broncos the only team that made it to the second round that has fired a coach. The other 15 teams still kept their original coach from when they started the tournament.
Yeah, it
So
doesn't make any sense. Like you've succeeded. Like you've made it to the next round. I mean, unless he's done something unethical, like there's no reason to fire him.
I mean, there was a Instagram post that the fans didn't like as much. The Santos fan page kind of posted like, "Oh, we should get Paulinho McLaren as our coach because he was such a good player for Santos." And then he reposted that on his Instagram story, say, "Just call me. I'm ready. I'm here." I feel a little bit disrespected. I feel like I know Santos is way bigger than Rio Branco, and Paulinho McLaren probably dream of being the Santos coach because he was such an outstanding Santos player. But I feel like he should have said, "Oh, I feel honored to be remembered, but now I'm a Rio Branco's coach. I want to get Rio Branco promoted to show that I'm capable of something bigger." I would have said something like that.
Yeah. I think that would have been wiser. But still, even if the coach had a misstep on social media, I do think that you have to sometimes forgive it because people are not going to be perfect when it comes to what they say or how they say things all the time. That's that's impossible. We're humans. Humans are going to make mistakes from a tactical perspective. So, I don't know. It just seems like that perhaps the standards are a little wee bit too high. They're expecting this guy to be a god, and that's just not possible.
No, and also it's because when he was hired, he probably had expectations, and his first game was a do or die game, and he got the win, so the fans got excited. But the game after that was very disappointing because they played with a team basically players 3 or 4 years younger, and the team was eliminated. The team was losing badly all the other games, and they got only 1-0 that they had to win. They wouldn't qualify. Then the game after that, they lost in the last minute at home after having 2 goals annulled by the referees. But this 4-1 loss was so hard to swallow because of all the ineptitude of the defense. 2 goals out of the 4 was just gave it away. Just literally gave it away. The players just gave it away. And the first goal was a goal that Rio Branco keeps on being scored at. Corner kick, the corner kick, the ball goes inside the little box in the penalty area. Somebody puts the head on and score. That's a goal Rio Branco keeps on taking it.
Yeah, and then just they look so slow too because I just as they have no idea how to defend the corner. Because I feel like usually these really good soccer teams are able to quickly get into place to defend like those corners, and Rio Branco just isn't playing in the method that is, I guess, that's best suited for that.
And the team that defeated Rio Branco, Grêmio Prudente, the coach had a really a lot had a big even another reason to be happy because he was the coach of Rio Branco in 2019 and 2020, and then he was making the roster, preparing the team for the 2021 season. Then out of the blue, he was fired by the front office for no reason apparently. So it was like a sweet revenge of saying, "Hey, I'm here having success. I guess you shouldn't fire me."
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to continuously fire guys that are having success for no reason, yeah, you shouldn't be surprised when they get hired by your rivals and they use it to come back to bite you.
Yeah, and last year he got a promotion, and then this year I feel like it would be a big surprise of Grêmio Prudente not having a promotion. They are still undefeated. They are for me the favorites to be promoted. Their team is very fast and a very good defense, but very good on counterattack. So and Rio Branco on Friday is a truly do or die game. They play on the road, the most hostile environment in all tournament in Jaú. Is expected to have the largest crowd in the tournament, largest crowd, probably 2,000 fans, which in the division Rio Branco's at is a really good crowd. They cut their ticket prices by half, expecting huge numbers. So Rio Branco's gonna go to a really hostile environment to get this win. So it's gonna be I'm gonna be there. People advise me, "Are you sure you want to go? Are you sure you want to go?" I'm going because it's I'm the kind of like the official not official, but like the voice of the Rio Branco fans. So I want to be there to have experienced this hostile environment kind of like situation.
Yeah, like that. I definitely think that'll be a challenge for you. Definitely going into that hostile environment. But hey, if Rio Branco scores some goals, definitely go out there and start screaming because that's
Yeah, it would be. I of course I would not scream as much as I wanted because fans, especially that kind of fans, don't take lightly of the opposing team's radio station screaming the top of their lungs when they score. So
yeah.
I have to be mindful, but it's going to be so hard for me to keep that mindfulness when the game is on and something like that happening.
Right. That'll definitely be. I'll be curious to see what happens.
Yeah, the game is 8 p.m. Brazil time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. is probably that's the only stadium that do night games in this tournament. Normally, the games like on Sunday mornings or Saturday afternoons, but since the city is so small, I and definitely you feel like a high school vibe. You know, the Friday Night Lights can't get any better than that. It feels like a Friday Night Light.
Like Friday night, like that's gonna be a very difficult.
Yeah, and I'll definitely do a video about the stadium and be like, and I'll definitely post with the I'll post with the you know the post outright Friday Night Lights. Can't get any better.
right.
And just to finish up Brazilian topics, Brazilian Championship going into week 17. Uh, the week 16 was very, not anything excited thing happening. Corinthians got another win over Flamengo, kind of like a preview of the Libertadores quarterfinals. The goal was a no goal by Rodinei. Vitor Pereira has to be elected the coach of the year in Brazil because he's doing miracles with Corinthians. Miracles. With the amount of injuries that he has, Corinthians is second place in Brazilian Championship, is alive in Libertadores in the quarterfinals. God, I don't know how, and is basically in the quarterfinals of the Brazilian Cup. They had a 4-0 advantage from the first game. So Corinthians basically on the quarterfinal of the Brazilian Cup. So you have to, give a lot of merit to Vitor Pereira because he has 8 key players in the injury reserve list: William, Fagner, Paulinho, Renato Augusto, Adson. You had what is his name? Gil and other players that were so important to Corinthians, all in their injury list. So he basically in the last game versus Boca, 2 players got injury during the game.
And that's 2 injuries during the game is it's very unlucky.
And no, and the thing the situation was so dire that William was clearly injured, but he was on the bench in case they needed him. That was so I think Corinthians. I don't know if the Corinthians is gonna make it into the all competitions. At some point this roster is not gonna be performing their top. But as the fans knows that they had an open practice on Friday. 40,000 people showed up in this open practice because I feel like right now Corinthians fans understand that this team is doing their best they can with the resources that they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's kind of like in the case of Rio Branco. You got to be realistic about where you are and how far you can go with the resources that you have.
Yeah, and Palmeiras still in the top of their league. They had a 0-0 tie with Fortaleza. Internacional is third place. But I think the story of the weekend in Brazil was Fred. He was the 2014 Brazilian striker in the World Cup, but he didn't play well. But he had a very successful career in Brazilian soccer. Cruzeiro, Atlético Mineiro, but mainly on Fluminense. He is Fluminense's biggest idol. He won 2 national titles. He won 2 Rio de Janeiro state tournaments. He was probably one of the top scorers of Fluminense history, and he retired on Saturday. The fans had all sorts of homage, and the stadium was full just to honor him. So, and that's one thing I feel like Brazil should try to find. Idols make uh, fans go to stadiums, fans be interested, and from what I see from the Fluminense fan reaction to Fred is what I think fans in Brazil are missing. Having a star player or a player that you can identify to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it almost feels like it goes back to the MLS discussion a little bit. Like the success of your sales and merch and everything goes back to it goes back to your star power. Who do you have? Do you have people who can
or or, or
bring
like
people
or
into the
like or like identity players. Like you don't have to have the best player, but the fans has to have identification with that best player or a major player. It's more like, for example, in football, let's say, Joe Burrow. He's probably not the best quarterback in the league, but Cincinnati Bengals fans love him because he is the Ohio kid, and they got him to the Super Bowl. Or I don't know, like, but you know what I'm saying, like, players, fans identifying with the players not only because, of course, they have to play well on the field. Of course, they have them, but not. That's not the only thing.
right, right. It's all relative. Like Tennessee fans, like we right now, we love Hendon Hooker, but is Hendon Hooker like a top 10 quarterback in the country? Probably not. I mean, I think there's a chance he could be, um, but it's I mean, everything with fan base is all relative. We all love or hate a particular athlete for random reasons. Like most people probably, for example, are hate someone for a random reason. Like most fan bases have no reason to have an opinion of Lane Kiffin, but like when Lane Kiffin comes to Knoxville, we throw mustard balls at him.
Yeah, and Lane Kiffin is like a coach that make your fan base riled up. He made even Florida Atlantic University fans care about football.
Yeah.
So he is a star in terms of getting people riled up to your team. And Fred was definitely that player in Fluminense. He always provoc- have provocative comments on and off the field. He provoked his rivals. I say that he had a really good career. He also played in Europe for Lyon, and I feel like he had and I always love to see players retiring with a team that had the most identification to. I like for if I like what the NBA does it, like a sign a 1 day contract, so like a like a Kevin Garnett can retire as a Celtic, or Paul Pierce can retire as a Celtic, or let's say if Kobe Bryant, retirement also was iconic because he did as a Laker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, and I feel like we're seeing less and less in that over the years, unfortunately, which really is sad because, I want to see more players, more athletes retire with who they came into the league with, like Freddie Freeman. That still hurts, to an extent, because I really wanted him to retire as a Brave.
And I feel like he will. He will. He definitely will. He will retire as a Atlanta Brave. Definitely. Like, yeah, like Freddie Freeman, great example. Freddie Freeman wasn't like a home run hitter or like this really attractive star, but he was that player that the fans identified to because he was good on the bad times, and then he had his best moments when the team needed the most.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and at the very least, he went out on top for Atlanta. So,
Yeah. And to finish up Brazilian topics, the Brazilian Cup round of 16 is this week. Two games are already done. Atlético Paranaense eliminated by another 2-1 victory. Fluminense is up 1-0 on the road versus Cruzeiro. So now Cruzeiro has to score twice to eliminate Fluminense. The game is probably by the end, is at 42 minutes into the second half. So, and Fluminense just scored again. Second goal, Cano 2-0. So Fluminense and Atlético Paranaense are in the quarterfinals of Brazilian Cup. Tomorrow you have Corinthians and Santos. Corinthians 4-0 up. So I think Corinthians is the favorite. You have Atlético Goianiense Goiás, the Central West Derby, 0-0 on the first game. So I think it's very open up. Ceará and Fortaleza. Fortaleza 2-0 into the first game. I think whomever loses this game, the coach is going to get fired because both teams are in the relegation zone. Ceará is still a little bit better because he advanced in the Sul America, Sul-Americana Cup quarterfinals, and Fortaleza was eliminated in the Libertadores. But still, if Ceará was able to reverse the 2-0 down and eliminate Fortaleza, definitely Voivoda is going to get fired. That's for sure. Like losing to a rival after being 2-0 up from the first game, that definitely can get a coach fired. And uh, América Mineiro and Botafogo on Flamengo Atlético Mineiro. A really huge game for at least for me because that's like a national rivalry. Two of the three best teams in Brazil right now. Of all the controversy off the field with uh, Gabigol saying the fans are going to make a hell environment on Wednesday, and then Atlético Mineiro front office saying there was like a incite violence and kind of stuff. So I'm interested to see that. And then on Thursday, you have Botafogo, América Mineiro. América Mineiro up 3-0, and Palmeiras and Sao Paulo on Thursday as well. So that's the Brazilian Cup. And the game for me on this round is Flamengo Atlético Mineiro because of how those two teams are really good. I think whomever lose this game, the coach is going to get questioned, especially the Atlético Mineiro coach, who's already been questioned about the team not playing as well as last year. But but it's an interesting round of 16 of the Brazilian Cup.
That should be a pretty good game. Should be a pretty game indeed. All right, I guess let's head into hot takes here. I guess you want to start off first with the.
Yeah, I'll start off first. My hot take is about sports and social media because the big discussion of Brazilian sports right now is not with any sports organization, is not with any sports team or players. It's actually, I'll say, a sports influencer. His name is Idam Ferreira. Um, Ira Ferreira. His nickname is Construction Worker Glove because I think Nick saw he basically wears like those gloves that construction workers wear, kicks the ball into the net and say, "Take it! That's the construction worker glove here." So he became like a meme in soccer, like this guy who came from humble beginning in the middle of nowhere who score beautiful goals on a funny way. He became viral on the internet. 17 million followers on Instagram, and also millions of followers on YouTube and TikTok. And of course, when you have such higher numbers of following, you start attracting interest. And he had an agent called Alan Jesus, and then he was guiding his career. But recently, he was accused of mismanaging his career, stealing from him, and take advantage of him. And then he changed agents. He now has an agent which was a former soccer player and a former futsal player named Falcao. And now the controversy is his former agent is being accused of taking advantage of him and made him sign a contract where he didn't know what he was doing. But today the agent fired back with an interview saying that he knew everything the contract was saying. He got a lawyer to read the contract to him. He was uh, he had a lot of tampering from Falcão agent's company, trying to lure him away from him, and now probably is going to go to court. But I think it just shows that I kind of suspect that was happening because this very simple guy, he seems very genuine, very funny, but he got thrown into this entertainment social media show where you have to be always like happy or always. And now and of course when you have millions of followers you attract interest from agents, and he seems like in the middle of a fight between two big sports agencies.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's just always crazy to see when you have a social media organic success like that end up getting consumed by outside entertainment agencies. And I think about this more in terms of like YouTubers, how like they start off organically and they end up getting sucked up by the void of something else and they eventually sell out. Or you have something funny like I'm trying to think. If you remember during like the COVID pandemic, the John Krasinski segment, like some good news, he always would come out and like say, "Here's some good news that's going on," because everything was so bad at the time. But eventually that got sold to HBO Max, which is just I felt like that is the ultimate example of this in terms of how something that started off so innocent and so like fun ultimately has to bow down to the corporate overlords eventually.
And his first agent, he was trying to keep that, not selling out image, because when he got a lot of success, he didn't went to the corporate media. He kept doing his videos on social media. He kept being the guy from the Northeast, and of course, people were happy when we saw him going to the Champions League final, meeting his idols in soccer. That was very genuine, and I felt good about it. But I always had a concern back in my mind. It's like, okay, he seems funny and viral and good, but what's next? Like, he has to capitalize on that, because at the end of the day, in the internet is just waiting for the next thing. People are gonna get, oh, okay, cool, you great, you can kick a ball into the goal and say funny things, but what's next? Because the internet goes fast. Like, what worries about him is that now he's gonna get caught up in this middle of a fighting agent, and then he's gonna get forgot in like 4 months, and then he's gonna get so confused because he lived in this very humble shack house in the middle of nowhere in the Northeast. So he is not used to having that so much fame to him. And probably in months he's gonna get spitted out, and people are gonna get find the next thing that is gonna get viral, and everybody's gonna forget about him, and he's not gonna know how to deal with that.
Yeah, and for our American audience, if you're not familiar with what he's talking about, the northeastern Brazil, if I understand it correctly, it is, though, isn't as developed as like southern Brazil, like we're like
No,
areas like Rio and Sao
I
Paulo.
compare it's like the Midwest of America. Like, it's kind of like Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota. Kind of like a forgotten area of the country.
Right, right. So I mean, it reminds me a ton of like a Honey Boo Boo situation or something. Like you had someone come from like this southern Appalachian town and had all this notoriety, but it kind of tore that family apart to an extent. Having all that attention on them. So you just for situations like that, you really got to have good advisors. You got to have someone that can guide you through it because fame will tear you up if you're not careful. Like I just, for example, like I was thinking my show ready this morning, and I saw that Pete Davidson was like doing some of Kim Kardashian on a reality show, and I couldn't help but think about Kanye, and how he's having to watch his wife, the mother of his two kids, kind of parade herself with Pete Davidson for all of the world to see. And and in a way, yes, Kanye has all this money I wish I had, but I'm glad I don't have this notoriety. I'm glad I don't have that. And for this guy, I'm sure it's amazing for him right now to have all this notoriety, but you have to be super, super careful.
And
And
also,
sometimes you get more than what you wish for.
and what worries about me with all this agents fighting and all this stuff, I don't see anybody trying to find a plan for him to the next step. I would have, if I was his agent, I would have tried to make him like maybe try to play soccer in a team. I don't know, have a career path. Because as much as people in the sports world see him as like this social media entertainment, he does not have any professional line about him. Like, he does not have any team, wanted to sign him or anything like that. Because again, social media is not the end; is the middle. Like, I feel like social media should not be your end goal. It should be something they use to promote your long time work. Because
Yeah.
of course, at first it seems all hyped up and all good and all, but again, as fast as they promote you up, they will tear you down.
Yeah, and people will turn on you so fast. It's pretty insane. Yeah, because they're one of my favorite YouTubers. He just crossed 1 million subscribers last week. So he made a video talking about his rise and how he initially started off doing one type of video, and when he changed the style of video, he lost 99% of his audience, but was able to build it back up. And how he really had suffered a YouTube death and should have never come back from that. And I feel like for this guy, if you don't find something else that makes you stand out, like because obviously that style of video is pretty funny, but there's only so many times you're gonna be able to do that and have it be funny. I almost think can you find a way to? I don't know if he knows English or not. Can you find a way to get him exposure in more countries? Introduce him to the American audience. Find a way to really expand his brand, expand the brand beyond Brazil. Um,
Yeah, definitely. And also, I feel like for the best interest for him is to make him, I don't know, if people say that, oh, poor guy, he illiterate? Is he, you know, so you have to think about long time education, I would have make him go to English classes, you know, getting him to use this 15 minutes of fame to make him you know something, because he's genuinely a good guy. He seems like the kind of guy you want to have success in life, but that if people just see him as like a cash cow because he has so many followers, then at the end of the day, I feel bad for him. That's my hot takes. Like I really feel bad for him because, and I felt something like this would happen. Instant fame like that always leads to big controversies that go nowhere.
Oh, absolutely. It is always very difficult to see a situation like that. So hopefully he's getting the advice that he needs to get through that situation and to come out on the other side in a beneficial position. All right. So to finalize this show, my hot take. Um, so Atlanta Motor Speedway, they had its second race of the year. Of course, over the last offseason, they kind of reconfigured the track to be more like a mini Daytona or Talladega, a mini super speedway. Um, and there's been a lot of controversy within the NASCAR community in terms of, do they like the old style track, which is more traditional, more of a driver's track, or do they like the newer version? It's more like a Daytona Talladega that is closer racing, relies more on drafting. After this weekend's race, I'm firmly on the camp of the new version. I like the new Atlanta more than the old Atlanta. I think it's more exciting. It's a unique style. It's not exactly like Daytona or Talladega. Handling mattered quite a bit. Definitely driver talent mattered, and definitely the car mattered. But still, like, it provided opportunities for underdogs. We saw an underdog in Corey LaJoy almost, upset Chase Elliott on the last lap to win the race, and that would have been an incredible upset. And it's just the racing all day was really exciting, and I really enjoyed both of the races this year at Atlanta, and I'm excited to see what they do moving forward. I would say this: I wouldn't make more tracks like it. I think it's okay if you keep this one track as a unique mile and a half track that races like a super speedway. Unless you want to make Texas like it, then I would be fine with Texas being changed, because Texas just sucks. Either change Texas into this type of track, a short track, or just demolish it completely, because it is the worst track on the NASCAR schedule. But I really like the new version of Atlanta more than old Atlanta. And that is my hot take.
Yeah, I mean, you've been telling for quite a long time about that this Texas Motor Speedway, unfortunately, is not up to standards that they should be. And it's always good to see the renovations on the Motor Speedway. I feel like this new Atlanta is exciting. I feel like NASCAR, as we discussed, needs new blood, not only as drivers but also the racetracks as well, because you know Daytona, of course, is the cream of the cup. I think that's the best experience in all racing in NASCAR. Probably kind of tied with Indy car race experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, man. It should be the most exciting product that America has to offer in motorsports. So it's Atlanta definitely puts that foot forward, and I'm interested to see what else NASCAR does over the coming years to try to spice up their product. But that is all the time that we have for Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. This has been episode 34 here, recorded on July the 12th, 2022. For Gustavo Tomazeli down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I'm Nicholas Hill in Chattanooga, United States, joined at times by Amy the Dachshund. It has been a pleasure. We will see you next time for episode 35. Peace out. Black Eyed Peas came to make